Okay, so have you ever found yourself in a weird corner of the internet, completely hooked on a story that's so wild and dramatic you can't look away? Well, today we're going to dive into one of those huge online genres, the billionaire bad boy romance. We're going to break down exactly how these stories get built using a pretty classic example as our guide. And that really is the big question, isn't it? I mean, these stories get millions and millions of views, and they're all built on this formula that just perfectly mixes chaos, conflict, and of course, classic romance. So to really get the appeal, we need to look at the building blocks, and that all starts with our hero. You see, every great fantasy story needs to start somewhere real, something we can connect to. And in this world, that anchor is our main character, Laura. We don't kick things off in a mansion or a high-powered boardroom. No, the story starts in a place that feels, well, pretty familiar to most of us. And just look how fast they set her up. She oversleeps, she gets distracted by a puppy, I mean, who doesn't? And she thinks her classes are boring. The point is, she's not some kind of superhero, she's just normal. And that normalcy, that is the absolute key that unlocks this whole story for the audience. Yeah, this is a classic storytelling tool. By making Laura this relatable every girl, the story is basically inviting us to step right into her shoes. It's the ultimate kind of escapism, right? So when her life is suddenly thrown into complete chaos, it feels like it could almost be happening to us, and that makes the stakes feel incredibly high. And speaking of chaos, her ordinary world, yeah, it doesn't last long. Every single story like this has one moment, that one event, where everything changes. It's called the inciting incident. Let's see exactly what that looks like for Laura. And boom, there it is. In just a couple of lines, she loses her home, her family is on the run, and she's being shipped off to live with a total stranger. Her whole sense of security is just gone, and the real plot kicks off. But the big question is, where exactly is she going? Of course. I mean, she's not sent to live with just any old friend. The story deliberately and kind of perfectly throws her right into the lion's den. The one guy at school she absolutely cannot stand, the one who is known for being trash to girls, is now the person she has to live with. This right here is where the central conflict truly ignites. So this setup brings us right to one of the most powerful and, let's be honest, most beloved tropes in romance fiction. The writers here aren't just making up a story. They're using a very specific and very effective narrative device to get things cooking. See? The story immediately points out their physical closeness. It's not enough that they're in the same huge house. Nope, they have to be right next to each other. And Luke's reaction here is just pure annoyance, which perfectly sets the stage for all the tension that's about to come. And you know, this is not a random choice. Forced proximity is basically a narrative pressure cooker. It makes it impossible for the characters to get away from each other. It forces them to interact, to let their guards down, and to deal with their feelings, which, let's face it, is exactly what we're all here to see. And they don't waste a single second. On her very first night, Laura sneaks into the kitchen to grab some food, and Luke immediately catches her and calls her a food thief. It's a small conflict, almost silly, but it does a perfect job of setting up their dynamic. They're suspicious, they're antagonistic, and there's tons of friction. Okay, so just as we're getting comfortable with this enemies thing, the story raises the stakes. You see, to really test the bond between Laura and Luke, you have to introduce a new element. A rival has to enter the scene. And the contrast could not be more obvious. On one side, you've got Luke, your classic bad boy. He's arrogant, he's jealous, he's confrontational. And on the other side, you have Dylan, who's described as sweet, kind, and just genuinely helpful. He is, by all accounts, the safe, logical choice. This one line, it just perfectly sums up Dylan's whole character. He's thoughtful, he's protective, but in a really gentle way, and he's a huge contrast to Luke's aggressive energy. He represents this path of stability and kindness, which just makes Laura's choice and Luke's eventual transformation all the more dramatic. Which brings us to the climax of the character arc. This is the moment the whole story has been building towards. This is the big payoff, where the bad boy finally shows he has a heart. And just look at how fast it all happens. First, you get the emotional vulnerability. Luke actually admits he was jealous of Dylan and confesses his feelings. Then comes the physical proof. When debt collectors show up, he physically steps in to save her. And it all leads to that ultimate promise. He's now her official protector. The transformation is complete. And when you put it all together, the relatable girl, the forced proximity, the love triangle, it all serves this one master trope: enemies to lovers. It's that journey from total dislike to deep affection that makes these stories so incredibly hard to put down. And really, that's the heart of the whole thing. This kind of story fulfills a really powerful psychological need. The fantasy isn't just that the bad boy changes, it's that he channels all of that intensity, all that power and wealth into protecting the one person he loves. He goes from being the source of her conflict to her ultimate source of security. So, when you really pull back the curtain on these stories, you see they aren't just random dramas. They are carefully built narrative machines. They use specific character types and plot devices designed to deliver a really powerful emotional fantasy. And their massive popularity kind of suggests they're tapping into a deep desire for stories about transformation and maybe even protection in our really complex world. What do you think?